Welcome back, F1 fans. Here's Hitting the Apex. Here's Jazz Santana. We've got an incredible show today with an incredible guest. Elizabeth Blackstock joins us on the show. Plus, mid-season awards, right? Silly season is coming to an end. But I don't know if Moni has any idea as to what she's going to do with these mid-season awards. So should be hilarious. Lights out's coming at you right now. Hitting the Apex starts now. Let's go. Welcome to the show. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Hitting the Apex here on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channels. Joined, as always, by my co-hosts Vish and Moni Lebro. And, of course, you see the wonderful Elizabeth Blackstock there joining us on the show. So we're really excited to have her on. Before we get going, let's give a shout-out to our sponsor. It's You Break Wheel Fix. Let's give them a shout-out real quick. You Break Wheel Fix repairs damaged wheels from curb, rash, cracks, or bends, all under one roof with in-house powder coating, CNC machining, and polishing. They also offer new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands such as Vossen, Forgiato, Fuel Off-Road, and more. They now even offer no credit check financing up to 5,000 wheels. 5,000 wheels would be incredible, but it's $5,000 for a new set of wheels. Fast turnaround times on all repairs, and they even provide loaner wheels in many cases. You Break Wheel Fix is your local automotive wheel solution located in North Miami, right off of Biscayne Boulevard and Northeast 146th Street. Check out some of their great work across all social media, from Instagram to Facebook, at You Break Wheel Fix. That's the letter U, break, wheel, like the wheel, fix, or online at youbreakwheelfix.com. You can even give them a call. It's 305-748-0112. That's 305-748-0112, and schedule your appointment today. You Break Wheel Fix, changing the way you see wheels. All right, ladies and gentlemen, silly season is coming to an end. So we've got our mid-season awards that we're definitely going to talk about today on the show. But before we get to that, we've got a very, very special guest on the show today. Vish, why don't you let the people know?
Yeah, sure. So I'm sure for regular viewers, you know there's a fourth box. So Elizabeth Blackstock is joining us. She's a senior editor with Jalopnik, very famous automotive blog. And very recently, which I found out 2 days ago, I'll be honest, started a Formula One podcast with Donut Media, which is called the Donut Racing Show, which is DRS, which is brilliant.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, when I saw that, I said, "Oh, that's perfect."
So, I mean, we could spend literally the next hour just reading her resume, but we'll instead just welcome her and let her talk. So, welcome, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. As I said, I am an editor at Jalopnik, co-host of the Donut Racing Show podcast. I have a book coming out about the Rich Energy Haas F1 saga with my co-author, Alanis King. I do a lot of things. I stay busy. And now I'm here to hang out with you guys. So it's going to be a good end of my night.
Awesome. We definitely appreciate it. And you know what? You're over there in Texas right now, so I know that you've got the second half of the season starting up. You've got the GP in Austin, and a lot to look forward to, right? So we definitely kind of want to get into some things. You know, we've got a couple of questions for you, and we definitely love for you to stick around and maybe give us some of your mid-season awards as well.
Oh, absolutely.
We have some of the crazies in the chat already that are big fans of the show, already talking about staying on. You know, they got to be on their best behavior tonight. Oh, you know what, Jack? It's all right, man.
It's the late night show.
It's the late night show.
Bring it all out. It's fine.
I know we'll kind of go around and ask a few questions. We definitely look. You know, it's obviously Vish. You know, he mentioned it. already pre-ordered the book, if I'm not mistaken. Vish, did you?
I did.
You did,
So
right?
I guess we
we got to get on
start.
that. Moni and us, we're kind of slacking. We got to get that too.
Well, I guess we can start there. Maybe as a question for those that don't know about the whole rich energy thing. Don't give it all away, because we want people to buy.
There's a lot of good tidbits.
Yeah,
that we're holding
tease
on
it,
to,
and
but...
also I will just say it is a scam, and we love a good scam in Miami. So you got a captive audience here.
Ain't that the
truth?
truth?
So Rich Energy was an energy drink sponsor from England that had like $700 in the bank at the time. It took on a multi-million-dollar sponsorship of the Haas F1 team. It was a wild ride. Their CEO had no filter on Twitter. They got sued a lot for various different reasons, mostly because their logo was an exact copy of a different company's logo. It was a wild ride. They left halfway through the Formula One season in 2019, broke the deal on Twitter. They were like, we don't believe in the PC attitudes of Formula One. And I don't think Formula One has ever been known as politically correct, but that's fine. But Alanis King and I have gone into it in depth, did a lot of interviews, talked to Haas employees, talked to fans, other journalists. We've dug out court records. Wow. It's gonna be fun. There's a lot in there that there's a lot more that we could have written, and we just couldn't get all of the details on them. So stay tuned for what will probably end up being a sequel, because this guy keeps on sponsoring teams and keeps on disappearing.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. I mean, I can't wait to make sure you get it. We've already got people on the chat talking trash. They're so funny. I got a question for you, and then Moni, we'll kind of whip it around. What got you into motor racing specifically, and specifically writing about it? What was it that kind of got you going on that?
So I actually grew up in Michigan. My whole family was in the auto industry. So we did everything with cars, and that included NASCAR. So we watched that all the time when I was a kid. I kind of got out of it as I got older, because it's kind of lame to like the things that your parents like. And then we went and saw Rush in 2013. And I was like, there's no way this James Hunt, Niki Lauda story is actually real. Hollywood must have blown this so out of proportion and made it so dramatic. And then I Googled it, and I was like, oh, so the real story was even more dramatic than what they even could show in a movie. And from there, I just kind of started to dive into the 1970s and do the history stuff. And then I was like, maybe I should watch one of these modern races that's happening, since this is still a thing that's going on. And as far as writing goes, writing was I knew I was going to be a writer from the time I was a kid. Had no plans of what I was going to do. And I did a little story on my own blog back in 2014 or 15 about what it's like to be a woman in racing. And it kind of got a little bit of traction. And that was how I got my first post on Jalopnik. Was they just asked if they could repost that with my permission. And I was like, oh, okay, so I can write about this race car stuff. And here I am. I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome. By the way, before we get to your question, Moni, love the ink. Fern says,
thank you.
Love the ink. Let's show off the ink. I haven't showed mine yet, so there you go.
Yeah, I've got all over the place.
There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Go ahead, Moni. I'm sorry, you had a question. I know.
Yeah.
The peanut gallery is well in not.
Elizabeth, we're really curious about, we know that you have an extensive background, that you've worked for different organizations within motorsport. We know that you've worked for Red Bull Racing, and aside from your senior editor position right now, we kind of want to get a little bit more into your background, where you've been, and what I guess you could say you feel most proud of everything that you've done until today.
That's a good question. I think the thing that I'm most proud of, honestly, is bringing stories about women in motorsport to light. That was when I signed on as Jalopnik's weekend editor back in 2015. The first story I ever wrote was on Helen Nice, who was a Grand Prix driver in the 1930s. And I've tried to kind of do that ever since, to give women have been racing forever. Women have always been competing, but we just don't have their stories. So I think that's something that I've been most proud of. All the way to today, where I get to talk to people like Charlie Martin, who's a transgender racing driver, kind of breaking barriers, transitioned, partway through her racing career, which was difficult for all sorts of reasons, not the least being a total rebrand from like even the logistical perspective of who you had established yourself as being. So I think that's I'm writing a book, so like that's kind of cool too. But I think just being able to tell those stories, share the stories about people, and just there's so many cool characters in racing. I want everyone to know who they are.
We understand that you were at Red Bull Racing. What did you do in there?
So I did some of the I did freelance blogs for Red Bull about motorsport. So I did a lot of back when Pierre Gasly first got announced to join Formula One. I was like the person who was writing about it and stuff. I didn't do a ton, but that was kind of my first dip into actually paid writing. I wrote about Fernando Alonso going to the Indy 500 for the first time, little stuff like that. So that was my first kind of my paid gig.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Thanks. Very cool. Vish, you got anything there for?
So I will say I did subscribe to your podcast and listen to the first couple episodes.
Thanks.
So I don't know how. I'll be honest. I found out about it a few days ago and binge listened. So I got some questions about that. I follow Donut Media on YouTube. I know your co-host from that. So I was like, how do I not know? Because I read Jalopnik too. I was like, how did I not know the show? Very happy to see that collaboration come together. Can you talk about kind of how you got together on that? And you guys started it in the middle of the season. What was was there thoughts of well, maybe we'll wait till next year, or kind of how did that come together?
It has been a 2-year process, actually. We've been Joe Weber actually reached out to me from Donut ages and ages and ages ago. It was during the heat of the pandemic, and he was like, we really want to do a podcast at Donut about Formula One. We're so stoked about it. Drive to Survive is huge. We want to be able to kind of capitalize on this. And we start, I was like, I'm so in it. Let's go. Who do we want as a co-host? I was like, Elena's king. We work together all the time. I know she knows her stuff. I can count on her with my, literally with my life. And it just, the logistical aspects of getting it from a company. So Donut as a whole had to approve the process. And then we had to do trial run episodes to make sure that we had a good flow. And so it just took forever for all of the right boxes to get ticked. And then it was we want to do our first episode recording in person. So it came down to our schedules, which are all very busy. So the first weekend we could all get together was the French Grand Prix.
Okay. Well,
maybe we should have done some of those prep shows before.
I know.
Our show's very different than it was a few months ago. But anyway, we worked it out live with our peanut gallery here.
We definitely did. It's funny you mentioned that though, because the other show that we were talking about off air, took a while to kind of get to where it's at now. It's great. We cover college football, and it's amazing, but. Getting that person or getting those 2 or 3 people that you can really kind of just mesh with and just go off. Me and Vish have been doing the show for a couple years now. Moni came in and she's just been, it's hit the ground running, and she's been incredible. We haven't skipped a beat. But it's interesting because this is a very interesting demographic, very interesting fan base that we're speaking to. They are not like any other sports fan base that you see out there in the whole world. And you see that, you're noticing that, right? So it's really exciting to see what you guys are doing over there with the podcast, what you ladies are doing, and we definitely thank you for answering some of those questions.
I do have just one more. Do you want to pitch the podcast? Like I said, I think it's great.
Are you gonna stick around a little bit for our mid-season awards or what?
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm ready to roll.
All right, cool.
But I do want to talk a little bit more about the podcast before we transition. So the tagline is "Brings a cheap beer mindset to the champagne popping podium of Formula One racing."
Yeah.
So up my alley. Do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit? And I will say, listening to the podcast, I think the cool thing is you're kind of I mean, I'll pitch it for you as well. You do kind of bring that kind of like everyday mindset to it, but you also, it's clear you guys know your stuff, which is like huge. Because I think
Formula One takes itself so seriously,
I
and I
know.
think that was kind of the thing that we wanted to avoid, was like another podcast where people are like getting real deep into like the technical regulations and why this drama tidbit on lap 45 meant, you know, it's a lot. It's too much. The fun stuff about Formula One is the storylines, it's the people, it's all the other things that then go on to the racetrack. And that's kind of what we wanted to do. And I've been going to Formula One races for ages. I've been doing it on the cheap. I went to Austria. I smuggled myself into a campsite because we didn't have enough tickets for everyone. Like those kind of things of like, it just vibed with me on a different level of like, I'm not fancy. I'm not the like pinkies out, champagne sipping, lobster eating person who's going to be up in the pit boxes or whatever. Like, I'm just here to hang out and have a good time. And I think more people should be doing that. It's race car. It's not the end of the world. It's awesome and it's so much fun, but like, we don't have to be so serious.
Well, you're not going to get much of that from us. I guarantee you that. You're not going to get that from us.
Good.
Yeah, we try not to take ourselves too serious on this show. Although the good news is, so Vish is a pretty good writer in and of his own. I mean, he's done some really good stuff when we were covering the Miami GP a few months ago. It was absolutely incredible. I was there. Vish was there, but Vish was Vish, you were you were behind the scenes the whole time, right? And
yeah,
so he got to see it from that perspective. I got to see it from the stands, and it was absolutely incredible. First time down here in a long time, and I think that we just can't wait. We just can't wait. So I totally get it. I totally understand the bouginess that there is surrounding F1, right? That's a good way to say it. The bougie, especially down here in Miami. Good Lord, everybody.
Miami was crazy. I'd never seen anything like Miami.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. It was so. But like you said, like I think more people need to just kind of sit back, have a beer, talk trash, and have a good time with it. And I think that you know, you'll get a little bit more of that in Miami. You definitely will, just because people don't know how to act down here. So it is what it is.
And that's why Miami was great.
Jack says I was too busy trying to catch fish at the marina. Yeah. Yeah, the marina looks so realistic.
They were very clear. We have to call it a dry dock.
The dry dock. Yeah.
They're like, this is not a fake marina, and it's a dry dock.
That was ridiculous.
They're very careful about how we use language around.
Before we keep going, let's give a shout out to Fernie. I don't know if you did already, Vish. I might have missed it.
I flashed it, but we can
for the $5 donation. Thank you so much, Tat. That's why the show rocks. You guys are passionate about it, and it makes the show great. Appreciate it, Tap. We appreciate that, man. We ready to go? Can we move on now? We're good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, listen. Hey, I can do this all night. Man. We got a bit of news coming out for Formula One, and Vish, I don't know if you kind of want to jump in on this. It says here, FIA, the World Motorsport Council, approves the power unit regulations before we get into the midseason awards, of course, for 2026. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you guys want to kind of jump in on that, Vish and Elizabeth, and anybody else that kind of wants to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess I can give a little bit of background. So that's the next kind of iteration of the engine regulations that they're going to. So there's always been this focus in Formula One on kind of getting, you know, to real world application of engines, not to just be a vanity sport. So that's why, you know, a lot of what's in your car today was first pioneered in Formula One. It is kind of under a little bit of threat from that with the push towards electric vehicles, although Formula E is kind of a mess. So might not be the threat we think it is, but like that is kind of, you know, but that is kind of the future of the automotive industry. So the big thing they pushed here is sustainable engines and also more accessibility. We know with Honda dropping out of the sport, although they kind of half dropped out of the sport. You know, there's only a few engine manufacturers, so they're trying to get more expansion. I think that's where the Volkswagen group comes in with Porsche and maybe some of their other brands as well.
So I mean, so the question I think are these engines going to suffer? Are you going to see better performance from from these engines? What's the overall the idea about with bringing out this new regulation for these new power units? I don't know, Elizabeth and Moni, you guys can kind of jump in on this as well.
I mean, primarily there's a lot of cost cap measures that are going into this new engine. Just trying to be conscious of the fact that there were a lot of tidbits, like the MGU-H on the previous engine is just like completely gone, because that was part of why Honda left, was that was just not a relevant piece of technology for them. Increasing regenerative braking, it's going to be, it's taking more hybrid technology and pushing it a little bit further than it's been before in Formula One. Like Vish said, it's not electrification as we think of it necessarily now, but it's the best you can get for combustion engines, I think, which is, it's going to be promising. Yeah.
Well, sorry, I was muted there. 100% sustainable fuel. They're going to keep that V6. Moni, how do you feel about these new regulations with coming into? I mean, listen, it's still a whiles away, right? It's 4 years away, basically. So we still got some time. I'm sure that there may be some other things coming out between now and then. We all know, like you said, like you mentioned, Vish, with Honda kind of dropping out, possibly dropping back in, Porsche, and all this. There's going to be a lot of different things going on. How do you feel about the new regulations with this power unit, Moni?
Sorry, I was about to speak and I was like, I'm on mute. Sorry. So I actually found this, I guess you could say it's like a little summary of like the main points, the most important points about like this upgrade for 2026, and I want to read them out loud to you guys to see what you guys think. So, number 1, no new fossil carbon will be burned. Number 2, 3 times the electrical power. Number 3, at 1,000 plus horsepower with less fuel used. Number 4, better safety. Number 5, lower cost but continued innovation. Number 6, a tougher challenge for drivers. And number 7, a more environmentally responsible engine. So I don't know, out of those 7, maybe which one, I guess, calls your attention, because to me, a tougher challenge for drivers, that one's the one that kind of like raised the flag for me. I don't know. I see you nodding in agreement, Elizabeth. So I want to see where you're coming from.
Yeah, they're getting rid of a lot of the pieces of the engine that are getting rid of the turbo lag. So when you push the throttle, there's going to be like a little bit of a lag between you getting the full power and pushing the pedal, which is going to be like, that's really interesting. In the past, like back in the 70s and 80s, when turbo engines really became a thing, that was part of what made driving so challenging. You had to know when to go on the throttle because it wasn't going to be immediate. So when you're halfway through a corner, you have to rethink like, oh, actually, maybe I want to go faster, like a little bit, like a second ago, because now I'm not getting the full speed. So that's going to be the really interesting part, I think, from me and my angle is, I mean, who knows what drivers are going to be there then, but I'm sure we'll still have some of the drivers currently that we have on the grid right now. Seeing how they like react and adapt to something like totally different than they've experienced before is going to be a lot of fun.
So advantage Latifi then. That's basically what we're saying, right?
Yes, exactly.
Obviously,
it's
right?
Latifi 2026 champion.
We should start making shirts for that already. Is there hope for us? Is there hope for the Reds?
Unfortunately, this doesn't address driver strategy.
I'm out of here.
You're still in trouble there.
I'm out of here. Yeah,
there's no fixing some of that. If you put on the hard tires at the wrong time, it's still not going to work. It doesn't matter what's going on.
Let's not relive that, please. Let's not. Look, so Elizabeth, just a little bit of background on that one. Vish and I were talking, and they had just put Fernando Alonso on the hard tires, And obviously they
Yeah.
radioed in, right? These hard tires, they're not
Mhm.
working. Then you heard, I think it was Jolyon Palmer, and say, okay, these hards aren't working. And then I'm like, Ferrari's gonna put they're gonna put them on the hard.
You knew. You
Again,
knew.
and then they put them on the hards, and I go, you gotta be effing kidding me that they just did that.
You knew the
Right
game they
after
play.
everybody said that the hards are gonna work. So
It's been
yeah,
the highlight of the season, I think, making fun of you in the post-race shows every time.
my goodness, man, it's been brutal. It's been brutal, but
So
we'll see.
real quick, Fernie did ask for the link to Elizabeth's podcast. It's,
awesome!
It's not
There you
very clickable showing like this, but if you're in the chat, you should be able to click it and subscribe.
Very cool. Very
Thank you.
cool.
I appreciate it. We're only 2 episodes in. We
hey.
can take the help we can get.
That's perfect. That's perfect. We'll definitely keep plugging it. Also,
Thank
Tap also wrote F1 needs to continue to be at the forefront of innovation. I don't know if you posted that already, Vish.
I did.
You did. Okay, great.
I'm on it.
Tire lag is big. We got John Track on the chat. Tire lag is big. And then you got Bozo Binotto won't be around for that. Yeah, ain't that
we have 2 themes on this show: making fun of Ferrari strategy and making fun of Latifi, and we hit them both. So.
Yeah, we do it very well. We do it very well. Even I do as a Ferrari fan, but it's all right. It is what it is. All right, so I think it's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye on that. But without further ado, let's get these mid-season awards ready, because I think it's going to be interesting to see what Moni says, because if I'm not mistaken, she told us she had no idea what she's going to do.
She texted us a moment ago. I was like, I don't know what to pick.
Well, if there's one thing for sure, like about me, is that I will be indecisive. That is one of my my biggest traits.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed. I don't know. So,
all right.
For the love of God, let someone go first, not me.
Okay. All right. Fine. This will be interesting. I think we're going to start off with number 1. Okay. And we'll start off with our guest, of course, as always, the most surprisingly good driver for the first half of.
Yeah, that was terrible wording on my part, but I didn't want everyone to just be like, well, Max.
It was the guy who writes.
I want to say best driver, so I probably should have workshopped the phrasing on that, but just so you.
I think
it's clear.
Exceeded expectations probably sounds better.
Yeah, I got it too. I understood. Everybody's not just going to say Max. I get it. So your most surprisingly, what was it? Most surprisingly good driver.
I'd like to put a motion forward to change that to driver exceeded
it's
expectations.
Over. No, you're screwed, man. That's it. No, most surprisingly good driver from the guy who writes incredible articles on the website. That's what came out of your mouth, Fish. All right, not mine. Most surprisingly good driver. Talk to me, Elizabeth. What do you think?
I gotta say, it's got to be Kevin Magnussen. I don't think anyone had any hopes for Haas at all, and for him to sign on at the last second and get in the car and finish in the points is really cool. The very fact that the team actually has points this year is kind of nice. And I went and I actually looked this up the other day for something else. But Haas currently has more points scored this season halfway through than they had in the entirety of 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Good pick. I like that pick. Vish, you want to go? We're gonna give Moni, let Moni go at the end.
Yeah, actually, Fernie.
After everybody says something, she'd be like, "All right, well, screw it. I'll pick that guy then."
No.
I was gonna say Checo anyway. That's where we're gonna land.
Checo, yeah, guaranteed she's gonna say Checo.
You guys know I have my sacred Bible on me every Wednesday.
That is true. The first time she pulled out notes, and I was like, "You prepped for this show?"
No, listen. I got my sacred book. So on top of everything, you're asking me not to make a decision, to be decisive about something. Number 2, I'm supposed to have good memory. So those are 2 things that just don't work out. So as long as I have my sacred book filled with notes, you see, I may gather an idea or 2 from you, Jazz, but I'm not gonna have the same answer. Okay.
Well, when you're not out there chasing presidents, you got to do something, right? I mean, come on.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm out here sweating in the Miami heat, like walking by my presidents. I'll give me some slack.
All right. Vish, who's your most surprisingly good driver?
So it's the name I mispronounce every time, but Zhou
Guan Yu, you got it.
Yeah, Zhou Guan Yu. So I know the point total isn't there, but I'll be honest, when the way the announcement came out, where they basically announced it on a billboard in China before the team announced it. I was like, this is totally one of those cash grabs where probably can't actually drive. He can drive. I've been very impressed with him. I know the point total isn't there. They've had a lot of reliability issues, but when that car is working with him, he has shown me a lot. I'm kind of excited for his future now. When I figured he would stick around for a year or two just as a pay driver and leave, but I think he's got a bright future, so he's the one I went with.
I don't know if this is the most surprisingly of the bestest of the mostest good drivers of the goodest drivers, Vish, right? Did I get that right? The most surprisingly goodest driver of them all.
It was in a document, just like scribbled notes, man.
I don't know, but I'm still gonna mention him because I think the battle with him and the other driver has been interesting. But Esteban Ocon, I think look, you see Moni's reaction.
No,
you see that? You see Moni's reaction?
No, just give me one moment. I want the world to know.
I knew it. It's a
I
matter
want
of
the
time.
world to know. This is literally it wrote this a couple hours ago. Not just now. I haven't been writing. See, Esteban?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You can still listen. You can still pick him. That's okay. It's
I know.
okay.
I just
Be in good company,
I need an alibi. Continue.
Look, the battle between him and Ocon and that Alpine, and by the way, that Alpine has just been exciting to see them kind of be the class of the midfield, I guess you can say. But just everything that's happened recently with Alonso kind of cements that Ocon is in my mind. I mean, he's the number one driver for Alpine, and I think a lot of people feel that way. I think that he's driven that way. I think he's been exciting to watch. I think he's a good young driver. He's been around for a little bit, but I think he's a good young driver. I think he's exciting to watch, and I think he's driven really well this first half of the season. And surprisingly, I think that he's going to continue, and he's just going to kind of progress and be that much better. So I'm excited to see a little bit further down the road what happens in the second part of the season with Ocon and with Alonso. Now that I don't know, is he going to be checked out now? You know what I mean? So like, how is that going to kind of shape out?
I mean, Ocon's not only the number one driver; he might be the only driver in Alpine.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Facts right there. I like the way Moni says Esteban better than Jazz. Yeah, well, whatever. Moni, I'm sorry I can't do that for you. All right. Moni, go ahead. Who's your mostest, bestest of the worldest drivers of the?
My goodest, bestest, everything, assist, surprisinglyest driver up until now. I also went with Esteban Ocon. Now I can't comfortably say. I don't think that we can comfortably say that he's had the same pace that Alonso has had up to now. But I definitely have gotten a feeling that he has been mostly consistent, both during qualifying and during the races. And I mean, he has more points than Alonso right now. He has 58 points, if I'm not mistaken, Esteban. And Alonso has 40, 41.
I did memorize the standings.
Around, yeah, something like that. I'm sorry. I'm literally trying to work.
He has more. That much I know.
John has he has more points and everything. So, and what we were speaking about last week, how maybe it's looking good for him to become the number one driver at Alpine, and it's become, I guess, increasingly more obvious that they're depositing a good amount of faith and confidence in Alpine into Esteban. So that's my choice. That he gets 2 awards from us tonight. So congratulations, Esteban. I hope you're happy.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll take it, Moni. I'll take it. Moving along to number 2, right? The second award of the midseason is going to go to the mostest. No, you said this. You got this one right. Most disappointing driver for the first half of 2022. This was going to be interesting because I think that it's got to be Nikita Mazepin. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Go ahead. We'll start with you, Elizabeth. Who's your most disappointing driver for 2022?
Daniel Ricciardo, like
Oh,
hands
God.
down.
Got my guy
There's
too.
there's
Jesus.
no one else who's done less with his equipment this year than Daniel Ricciardo. Like I'm a Daniel Ricciardo fan. I have painted banners for this man and brought them to races. I have worked my butt off to win Red Bull contests back when he was in Red Bull so that I could meet him in person. And I have been so disappointed this year. He just is not good. He's just not good. He's nowhere near Lando Norris. He's just and it's sad.
It is sad. It is sad. We'll go the other way around. We'll go with you, Moni, on this. Who's your
Well, another original answer. I'm gonna go with Danny Ricciardo.
It's the only answer. Like it's the answer.
It is. It is. I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to agree with everything that you said, Elizabeth. I feel like he, to some degree, has been kind of like checked out during the season. Of course, he has been like struggling with the car, and I don't think that we've seen a Danny that, I guess a way to put it is going out of his way to really improve his performance this season with McLaren. And it's sad because to be honest with you, I think that he's one of, besides like Hamilton, obviously he's one of the big faces for Formula One around the world. And I'm kind of nervous when it comes to his shorter term future as of right now. Really don't know what's going to go down with him, but it's definitely a disappointing time because I'm also kind of like a Danny. I just feel like you can't really be a Danny Ricciardo hater. I don't know if there's a Danny. I get it if you're not maybe a Danny Ricciardo fan. I get it, but I haven't spotted that many Danny haters. I may be wrong. It's okay if you're not a fan, but I just haven't seen a hater. So I don't know.
This one, it was tough. It's tough not to pick Ricardo. But I mean, I got to give it to Ricardo also. I mean, it's hard. I was kind of, do I go with, someone like Schumacher, but am I thinking about Mick? Oh, it's just the name, right? Like we know he's really not, I think at this point, and Vish, you mentioned it all the time. Like he's just not an F1 driver, right? So like, it's the name. We talked about this last week in last week's show. So if I'd had to go with someone that's not Ricardo, I might go with Mick, but I'm going to stick to kind of Danny Ricciardo as well. I just think that he struggled, but he's never felt comfortable in that McLaren, and I just don't understand why. Even then, right? He obviously won a race last year, but he's just never been comfortable in that, and Lando's just kind of smoked him like in every aspect of that car, and it's just disappointing because I don't think he's a bad driver. I think he's a hell of a driver, and I just think that he just hasn't, for one reason or another, he's not comfortable in that car, and it's just been pretty disappointing. But I think that look, John mentioned Mick disappoints from what we all hope he will be, not really what we expect. Good point. Yeah, that's a great point there. I think that's why I thought of Mick, because I was kind of it's the name, and we want him to be what. He's never going to be what his father was, obviously, but we wanted him to be something more. So I'm going to go with Danny Rick and Mick as my disappointment as well. What do you got, Vish?
All right. So, I mean, as Elizabeth said, there's only one answer, but I'm not going to give it to you. That's not fun. So I'll throw one out there for kind of a different reason, which is Alonso, and not for necessarily in-car performance. Two things. One is, I think he'd be beating Ocon if he hasn't spent several races like intentionally trying to hold up the drivers he doesn't like, doing Fernando Alonso things. Like, I'm going to drive slow on fresh tires and then like accelerate in the straight so you can't pass me and just hold everyone up. Like, he's caused several DRS trains on purpose.
He is the king of the DRS train, right?
Well, he's doing it on purpose because he just doesn't care. Yeah. So it's not even like the driver. In fact, it's probably harder to do that than to drive fast. So it's showing more skill. And then just what he did to Alpine, who brought him back into the sport. and just completely screwed them.
He's a
And
chaos
almost
agent, and they
on
knew
purpose, 'cause
that.
he went to a worse team. Like, I don't even know what his I mean, I guess he has a long-term plan even at his age, but, like, I don't know what his plan is, but, like, you're going to
Make
the back of the
money.
grid, you're going to a worse car. He was negotiating with Alpine and like, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm gonna sign this." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he knew what he was doing. He waited for, like, that's why they got into that whole contract mess. He waited for a July 31st Piastri deadline to pass, then sign. I mean, this dude has been doing this for, like, 20 years too, like, so Ricardo's definitely, like, by far the most underperforming driver, but Fernando's got a bunch of other stuff going on that I'll throw in there and pick him.
He is something else. He really is something else. But and yeah, it's definitely a money grab at this point for him, right? I mean, moving to Aston Martin. I don't get it, but he just what did friends? He just wanted more guaranteed time on his contract. That's the only reason. Yeah, well, he got it.
That's definitely it. But he was negotiating in bad faith with Alpine, right? Like, I mean, there's I don't know. It's his MO. I mean, he's
Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he is. All right, so moving to number 3, the third midseason award is the most surprisingest goodest team. So the most surprisingly good team for 2022. Again, we start off with our guest, Miss Blackstock.
For me, it's going to be Alfa Romeo. It's like there's like those 3 tiers of performance in Formula One. So you've got like the good teams, and then the midfield, and then the back markers. And Alfa Romeo has been a back marker since it rejoined in 2019. And they've done really, really well this season. Like, they are firmly in the mid pack now, which is honest. Like, I'm kind of impressed. I think they're doing all right. They're going to be my team. Like, I wasn't expecting anything out of them at all. And to see them actually like scrapping for points is like, it's really cool.
Okay, I can dig it. I can dig it. I'm gonna go number 2 on this one. I'm gonna say, yeah, Evan. I'm gonna say Haas. It's not Haas like Haas avocados, but it is Haas like the team. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Haas because they have basically ran this whole entire season with practically no upgrades because they're getting all their parts from Discount AutoZone down the street here from my house. And they're still managing to be semi-competitive in the midfield. And you mentioned it earlier, Elizabeth. K-Mag is having a hell of a season, right? Considering he's pulling that whole entire team, because Mick is definitely not holding his own weight. And obviously you saw some excitement at the beginning of the season. They kind of tapered off a little bit, but you're starting to see them be pretty competitive again. I'd be interested to see what they're going to do in the second half of the season. Again, those engines got to hold up. What if any upgrades are they going to bring to each race is going to be interesting to see as well. So I'm going to go with Haas. I'm going to go with Haas on that. What do you got, Vish?
Yeah, I'll kind of contradict myself as I usually do, and I'll go with Alpine. Because I didn't have them beating. Oh wow, I stole Moni's. Yeah. We should let you go first on the next one. Well, I didn't have them beating McLaren. I didn't trust their engine. They're the only car on the grid using that engine, but they seem to be holding their. I mean, they're better than McLaren right now, partially just because Danny Rick. So, but has like no points, and that's why they're ahead of the constructors. But yeah, so I did not see them. I thought they would be kind of a step back from McLaren. Instead, they're actually in front of them. So I went with Alpine.
Moni.
Okay. Well, initially, I had Alpine for very similar reasons, and then, but I was also torn between Alpine and Haas, and I was like, no, let me. I don't know. Let me go for Alpine. But then all the reasons that Haas gave, I'm like, facts only. So maybe I should go towards Haas. And I don't. It's not looking like someone's gonna. I don't know. No, he said Haas. I'm gonna go to Alpine. And then
get it together.
So you know what? We're all in this together. Number one, I have to agree with all of you. You guys have made really interesting points, but at this point, I'm gonna have to improvise, and I'm gonna have to agree with Tap. Um, when it comes to Mercedes, I they have given me a feeling that they're kind of bouncing back a little bit. They managed to bounce back a bit the last couple of races, and
Literally.
and and literally bounced. Oh god, that's horrible. Oh my god, I didn't even. No pun intended, by the way. That was a good one.
That was straight pun intended.
Right, it flew by me, straight over me. I didn't even notice that. So they've been able to figuratively and literally bounce back. And as far as their car goes, I mean, it's really not the craziest machine that we've seen all season. So I'm just gonna stick with Mercedes, although I agree with all of your choices.
I mean, they've got the goat over there, so whatever. Yeah,
it could be worse.
It could be worse, you know. You could have two George Russells, then you'd be screwed. But anyways, you might get lucky.
There's
somehow.
so much baggage on this show that we have to explain everything.
Oh, I have a feeling that she's gonna start watching this show a little bit now and see what it's all about because
I gotta get the lore.
Yeah, we got some issues here, man.
No, Elizabeth, we need collective therapy, and once we start watching, we know why. It's group therapy.
That makes sense. I mean, I feel like anyone who watches Formula One probably needs someone to talk to afterward.
Yeah, I thought football was stressful. My goodness, I'm up at 8 o'clock in the morning, like this. I was stressed, and I'm like, at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're supposed to be relaxed, have a cup.
I haven't even had a drink yet. Like it's too early for that. I'm over here stressed.
Jesus, excuse me. All right, moving along because I don't want to talk about this one because I feel like everybody's gonna have the same answer. Most disappointing team for the first half of the season. We'll start off with the ladies once again.
Can we go to Moni first, just in case?
Super fair point. Super fair suggestion.
Okay, go ahead, Moni.
Jazz.
Stop.
He logged off, and that's fine because it's not easy to hear. It's not easy to deal with, and I don't expect him to take this lightly. You know, it's been really hard on our dear friend Jazz, and he's been trying his. Yeah, you see, he's been trying. Yeah, he has been trying his best to stay true to his roots and fight through the pain. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with Ferrari as the most disappointing team up until this point of the season. It is nothing personal, at least when it comes to you, Jazz. It's most definitely personal when it comes to someone else that we all know, but it shall remain unnamed.
Vincenzo?
Is it Vincenzo? Not.
We love you, Vincenzo. We're just kidding.
But I'm gonna have to go with the obvious choice, and that's Ferrari.
Nothing more needs to be said. But Elizabeth, go ahead. Thanks, Jack.
I'm doubling down on Ferrari. They've done something incredibly impressive this year, which is they've made me a fan of their drivers. And like, I don't like Ferrari. I actively root against them because I don't like establishment. So I was like, Ferrari, I hate that they're doing good. Like the Ferrari versus Red Bull battle was like two of my least favorites. And then they keep like messing stuff up. And like I feel so bad because it's not anything that Charles Leclerc can do anything about. It's not anything that Carlos Sainz can do anything about. Now I'm a fan of both of the drivers. I don't want to be. I actively don't want to be, but I am because the team has been so disappointing.
Thanks. It's the pity. I get it. I understand. It's hard not to like Carlos is my favorite driver. I love Carlos, but yeah, I mean it's arguably the fastest. It's arguably the fastest car on the track, and they are the worst managed strategically. I mean, for me, it's like if I go to another race this year, I'm putting a brown paper bag on my head when I go to the races, um, and I'm actively trying to fire sell the whole entire pit crew, everybody that's on the pit wall. Please take Egon with you. By the way, I call Binotto Egon. Um, he looks like Egon, right? Like you guys maybe you haven't thought about it, but he looks like Egon. So,
I can see it.
you know, take them all with you wherever you go. If you want to go to, I don't know, if you want to go to Williams, whatever, be my guest. But I just it's hard to see the type of mistakes they're making when they're clearly dominating in some of these, races, and they end up somehow, shitting the bed, for lack of a better expression. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed, to say the least. Fish, go ahead.
So before I say mine, I'm going to give you a different answer, by the way, which
Oh,
I
sure.
was going to give anyway. This was not an audible. I do want to shout out John. I don't know how many Miami Dolphin fans we have watching, but this was a play on the Dolphins fight.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
So I had to shout that out. I did get it, so good. Good
By
stuff.
the way, the donations are up. So if you guys want to get into a donation battle again on the show, please feel free. Tap and Jack and Trey One Love. Trey One Love. I like that name. Trey One Love. Ferrari are pushing their engines so hard they keep up there to keep up there, not lasting. Yeah, I mean,
so
whatever.
I will just say about Ferrari, it's really hard to have the fastest car and be out of the championship by the summer break. So good job there.
It's impressive.
That's an accomplishment. But I'm going to go with AlphaTauri because I don't know what the purpose of this team is anymore. They're supposed to be developing drivers. None of Gasly and Yuki are never going to drive for Red Bull. They're not fast. They're not like a good breeding ground for developing parts either because they're so slow. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but I don't know, what are they for at this point?
Good point.
So
yeah,
I can see it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to go anywhere though, right? I mean, but what are they going to do, right? That's the biggest question. It's not about if they're not going to be around.
The concept behind it was it's a good place for essentially Red Bull's junior drivers to sharpen their skills, like Max before him, Vettel. They all come up through that team, and then also where they can ostensibly prototype some parts to then eventually bolt onto the Red Bull or whatever. No, technically not supposed to. Let's be real. With the car being that slow and them not really having junior drivers coming through, I don't know that team even has a purpose right now. Like, what are they doing?
Can I introduce a conspiracy theory?
Oh, please
Absolutely.
do. Oh, yeah.
That the team exists solely so that Red Bull takes 2 team slots out of the 10 so that they can't have another team come in and take money away from them. That's probably the only reason.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. And listen, it's not that far-fetched.
Because they're not letting the Andretti, Michael Andretti buy into the Formula One paddock because it'd be the 11th team and someone wouldn't get money at the end of the season. They could just get rid of AlphaTauri. We don't need them.
To be entirely honest with you, Elizabeth, that doesn't even sound like too much of a conspiracy to me.
No, it's Formula One.
I at least hope they're selling.
But we spoke about this last week. Remember we were talking about, hey, let's bring Andretti in, and they've got slots for 2 more teams essentially. Mm-hmm. Like, why not? And you guys mentioned it. Like, we spoke about it. Yeah, they're trying to keep the Andrettis out. They're trying to keep is it just because they're trying to keep an American team out? Like, what, or is it just the Andrettis? Like, or just another team? Period. I don't know what they're trying to do there, but I mean, whatever they do, whatever Red Bull does apparently works.
Right. I mean, Red Bull is working fine, but they've gone more traditional, right? They hired Checo to be the second driver. They're not bringing people up through AlphaTauri. They sent Gasly back, which defeats the purpose. Why didn't they just cut him loose?
And there's not even that many drivers in the junior program anymore. Like, there used to be so many. Not anymore.
So true. So true. So true. Oh, man. Okay.
All right. I'm not on board with this Williams talk. Maybe I'm an old head, but Williams can't go.
You leave Williams alone, Tap.
Yeah, hands off Williams.
All right. So a couple more questions here. And I actually want to do something because obviously, the season. So the season gets back up and running next weekend, right? Not this weekend, but the following weekend already,
Yep.
right? Yeah, it's Spa. Before we let you go, Elizabeth, we want to get your predictions on your top three, your podium,
Ooh.
and your surprise, like your kind of like surprise of the not driver of the day, but like your surprise of the race. Okay, so we'll
Okay.
definitely do that for you, and then we'll kind of talk about it
Good.
next week when we preview Spa. So that'll be kind of fun. But before we get there, number 5 on this list was, are the new car regulations working? This is not a mid-season award, but are the new car regulations working? We can start off with you, Elizabeth, on this. Excuse me.
I think I don't think you can say that regulations are promising or that they've been working until the second year that they've been in action, because that's when everyone has kind of figured out how to use them and how to live with them, if that makes sense. So I currently think that they're promising. We've seen some pretty good racing, but we've also seen porpoising and all these other issues of operating under the cost cap that we didn't foresee because we weren't planning on inflation skyrocketing. So like I think it's on the right track. I think we're going in the right direction, but like, are they working? Like maybe not. Maybe we'll see next year. I think the real challenge will be if you can continue to have competition in year 2, because that's usually when it kind of stratifies.
I don't know. Ask Mattia Binotto if they're working. Anyways, Moni, what do you think about the new regulations this year? Are they working?
Uh,
I like that tap.
sorry, that was funny.
That was funny.
I have to agree with Elizabeth. I just feel, I don't know if the right way to put it. I'd like not to jinx anything when it comes to the new regulations. Okay, so I just feel like that's kind of like the curse over here in this sport. So at least when it comes to these new regulations, I feel that we would be playing it safe by not jinxing anything. And as you said, Elizabeth, I agree. It's been more of a matter of giving each team time to adapt to the regulations. So that's why I guess you could say that we should avoid speaking a little bit too soon about whether they are working or not. I mean, the cars are running, so I guess they are working, but
Success.
yeah, for the most part at least. But yeah, I think that it would be wise to give the teams and the cars a little bit more time, and to keep an eye out for the rest of the season to see how everyone continues to adapt.
Vish.
Yeah, I mean, don't disagree with anything said. I will say the one thing I think they maybe could have done differently is they dramatically changed the tires too. And I feel like a lot of what we're seeing now is the teams are not getting to grips with the tires. Like they always, Pirelli puts out this is the optimal tire strategy. It's never used by the time the race. Like the tires like on lap 5, like these tires are gone. It's just like I feel like that's actually kind of impacting some of the actual wheel-to-wheel racing we might see, because everyone's like offset, and especially we've seen a wide delta between how quickly the teams wear the tires, which is where Mercedes tends to pick up points because they seem to be softer on them. So to me, like if they had left the tire compounds and tire sizes the same, obviously that would have affected aerodynamics, so who knows. But I don't know that, to both what Elizabeth and Moni both said, like we haven't really had a chance to fully see them come in until the teams get to grips with them. But I would have definitely I feel like the tires are much more impacting races than they did.
It was a lot all at once. Like
Yeah,
they changed everything, and they asked everyone to change everything, which is sometimes you like to have a constant when the rest of it is going to be different.
Well, it's also kind of ironic because we spent most of the last decade with Mercedes like 20 seconds up the field, and then finally like they basically tied last year, and now like, all right, throw this out, and then
yeah, it's over. We're done.
It's like, actually, I could use another season like this. Do we need to change this right now?
But it's true though, right? Like you're seeing some drivers start to kind of get it, right? They're starting to get the hang of it a little bit more than others. and some are still struggling. So you see a little bit of a difference, right? There's not a lot of cohesiveness yet, and with everybody figuring it out all at the same time. But you are noticing, like you all mentioned, that some of the teams are starting to figure it out a little bit better than others. And some will never figure it out. So it's just going to be interesting to see in year 2 if there's any I guess not only any changes, but not any changes in the actual cars themselves or the regulations, but for teams, if that's going to make a difference as well. It's going to be interesting to see. Lastly, before we get
real
go
quick
ahead.
to Tap's point here, Max is getting a word. It's the World Drivers' Championship. Yeah, I think he's good with that.
He doesn't need to hit in the apex.
Courtesy of Ferrari, they took his stress away, and they're like, "Here you go, man. We're not even gonna mess with this." So.
Yeah. He doesn't need our award. All right, let it go. Give us a hot take for the second half of the year. Ooh, this should be good. Hot take for the second half of the year. We'll go Liz, Vish, and Moni, and then me. Go ahead.
I've been thinking about this one all day, and everything I come up with has seemed within the realm of possibility and not exactly a hot take aside from one, which is that Ferrari is going to make a comeback because they've had the summer break to think about their problems. They've been in timeout. They've been grounded. It's their time. They've got it. Everyone else got too confident. This is Ferrari, so I will probably look like a clown in exactly one race, but I'm going to stick with it.
From your mouth to God's ears, okay? Vish.
Yeah, I can't get on board with that plan.
That's why it's a hot take.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Mine's worse, so don't worry. I'll go with McLaren will win a race.
Ooh, all right. Look at Evan.
It's going to be Daniel Ricciardo who wins?
I did not. Okay, you know what? I'll own that. Fine. Let's go with Ricciardo.
Ricciardo winning a race. Wow, that's a scorching hot take.
I'll double down on the hot take because the McLaren's not fast enough to begin with, but then Ricciardo's usually 5 seconds off the pace from Norris. So let's go with that.
You're going to have like 7
wet
DNFs
race, everyone crashes. Ricciardo's the only one who finishes.
You're going to have like 7 DNFs, 7 or 8 DNFs. And somehow, I don't know. That should be interesting.
It's not going to be interesting because they're not going to probably even get on the podium. But
how exciting would that be though, Vish, for McLaren? Huh? You're a McLaren guy.
Yeah, I'm a McLaren guy, but I'm realistic. That was like the dumbest take I could think of. Was that team actually doing something functional right now?
That's fine. That's fine. By the way, Elizabeth, who are you a fan of? What's your team? If you have.
I was a McLaren fan, honestly. And then, all of this contract nonsense has been going on across multiple series because I'm, a real big McLaren IndyCar fan because I love Pato O'Ward. And absolutely, everything that's gone on has really soured me to it, which I should have known better. It's Formula One. You can't have anything. That's nice.
All right.
All I heard is she's a McLaren fan.
Yeah,
so you're outnumbered this time.
Stick with it. Most of the time, I'm outnumbered, anyways. Moni, what's your hot take for the second half?
My hot take is that Liv is gonna become both a golf league and the new. No, I'm kidding. My hot take is that Haas is gonna climb to the top 5.
Wow.
Ooh, I like that one.
All right, so who goes out? It's got to be McLaren, right? There is an Alpine.
It hurts to say, but yeah. It hurts to say, but yeah.
I'll remember that one.
No. But don't take this in a bad way, okay? I don't mean it in a bad way whatsoever, okay? This is pure strategy, but remember, this could be like Ferrari strategy, so it could go either really well or really bad.
We can be on Plan Z by the time you're done with this.
No, Plan Z is usually in lap 2.
Yeah, no kidding. Plan Alpha. We'll have more hurricanes this year. No, we'll have less hurricanes than plans for Ferrari. Anyways, God, this is gonna be tough for me, but all right, this is supposed to be like a really hot take, right?
Yes.
That's close, John. It's close, but I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton ends up second in the drivers championship.
Ooh. Oh my
And
Okay.
that's hard for me, but I'm gonna say, look, I mean, I see that smile on your face there, Vish, but I'm gonna say the GOAT gets second place. There he is. I like that. I wonder who got that. I wonder who got that for you over there, man. But anyways,
Yes, appreciate the gift, man.
thanks. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. Lewis Hamilton in second place. Pretty hot.
It's a good choice.
Thanks. All right. So
Thanks.
now we've got Spa coming up in a couple of weeks. So thankfully we've got some race previews to do after this season's halftime. You want to say summer break is over, but we typically do this, Elizabeth, every show before a race is we kind of give our top three, who's going to podium, and what our surprise pick is for that race, like what we think is going to happen if it's like Joe's going to end up in the top 5, or if someone's going to end up in the points, is a Williams, things like that, right? Crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
Another hot take per se. So we definitely want to get yours, because we definitely want to talk about it a little bit in next week's show. So what do you got for me? What do you think is going to be? Give us a little bit of what you think is going to happen in Spa, how excited you are about it, and what you got as your top 3 and then your surprise.
I am excited for Spa, mostly because I don't think it's going to be here next year. It sounds like they're going to get rid of it. I'm trying to enjoy it while it lasts. I think Alex Albon is going to get exactly 1 point. I think we're going to see it happen, because I think everyone's going to get too spicy on the first lap, and I think we're going to see some contact, and I think that's going to be fun.
Okay, so that's your surprise pick.
That's
Albon,
my surprise.
Albon, okay, with a point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I keep my fingers crossed. He seems like a nice boy. I like his family's cats, so he's in my heart.
Okay, all right.
Have you seen their Instagram channel that Alex Albon's mom runs? It's like just dedicated to the 900 family pets that they have.
Wow,
it's incredible. Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. We're gonna have to check that
they
one
have
out.
they have like a couple dogs. They have like 6 cats. They got horses. Like,
jeez.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's so cute. That's the only reason I like him. That's the only reason I hope he does well.
Okay.
My top 3.
Who do you think does well? Like what this track kind of favors who, or what team, what drivers, and give us your podium picks. Yeah.
I think Max Verstappen is at this point unstoppable. I think he has not only proven that he can do really well no matter where he's driving, but I also unfortunately think that like everyone has given him all of the confidence this year, because everyone else has done very, very badly compared to them. So I think it's going to be Max wins, but I think it's going to be a Mercedes 2-3. So I'm going to contradict my hot take that Ferrari is going to do a comeback. I think it's just going to be Verstappen, Russell second, Lewis third.
Okay. All right. Not sure I like that, but
Ferrari needs one race to ease back in.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I see what you
did
there. Okay, fair enough. They'll be 4-5.
I wasn't sure if you were talking about the lack of Ferrari or the George Russell in second.
Yeah. They'll still get it. They'll still get in the points. They're going to be 4 and 5. Okay, and then Checo.
They're right there, ready to take it on.
Gotcha. Moni, what about Checo? Huh? What happens with Checo in the second half? That's her man. That's her man, Elizabeth. Checo's her man.
I love Checo. It's a good choice.
Yeah, Chequito.
We all know what I feel about Checo.
Oh yeah, he got and then whenever
coming
name
around him a little bit. But anyways, let's plug that show. Let's plug that podcast. Talk to them a little bit about where they can find you on social media, your podcast, everything, the whole 9.
All right. So Donut Racing Show, you can find that anywhere podcasts are distributed. Apple, Spotify, those are the big ones. But there's like those 900 podcast listening app things. We're on there too. if that's your preferred method, I am on Twitter at Eliz, ELIZ_Blackstock. Instagram is not interesting. I just post pictures of my cats. But if you want to follow me there, it is Eliz A. Blackstock. Yeah. Keep on keeping on. Buy my book. It's in my Twitter my Twitter pinned tweet. Yeah, it'll be fun.
When do your podcast episodes come out?
Our podcast episodes are every Wednesday after the race. So Wednesday mornings, you will be ready to roll.
Awesome. You got a full F1 slate on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, you got donut.
Yes.
You got donut racing and excuse me, and you've got F1 hitting the apex, and you've got
exactly.
it all.
You got
there.
donut in the morning, and you got hitting the apex to ease you into bed at night.
That's what I'm talking about. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on the show. We truly appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure. It was a lot of fun. I really hope to have you back on soon. You're more than welcome to come on anytime. Anytime you want to come shoot the breeze with us. But none of this McLaren talk with Vish anymore, because then he gets too excited.
I intentionally just avoid talking.
Well, there you go. I'll just come back and I'll be the one who brings it up. Probably.
At least like Ferrari
then I'll get disinvited.
is present in the race, so you can't not talk about them. They usually are the determining factor.
But are they present, Vish? They're present, but are they really present?
I mean, they are generally responsible
physically,
for the race
but not spiritually.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if they're all there all the time. Make sure you check us out every Wednesday night here at 9:30 p.m. on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Hitting the apex. You can find us on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons. And again, thank you to our sponsor, You Break Will Fix. Thank you to our amazing guest, Elizabeth Blackstock. And we hope to see you guys next Wednesday as we will preview Spa and get to talking some racing again as the second half of the season gets underway. Again, thank you everybody so much for tuning in to Hitting the Apex. We'll see you guys next Wednesday night. Adios.